With Borderlands 4 seeing a fairly successful release about a month ago, it's hard to look at the past few entries of the franchise and see anything other than disappointment. As Borderlands 3, Wonderlands, and new Tales from the Borderlands were perhaps some of the biggest missteps Gearbox has ever made. While Gearbox didn't necessarily have the best track record with some franchises, they always, at least up until Borderlands 3, made their looter shooters great. None more so than Borderlands 2.
Shoot me in the face! In the face! Do it! Shoot me in the face! Face, 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 face! Now! Bullet in the face!
To this day, it is viewed as the best game in the series and one of the best games of all time. That's why it's so incredibly painful how they treated the one game that could have been just as big, if not bigger, than Borderlands 2. Picture this. It's June 10th, 2021. You're sat in your room watching Summer Games Fest because you have no friends, and you hear Jeff Wrap It Up Keighley say this.
Well, let's begin with a brand new game announcement. You're about to see the world premiere of the next great adventure from Gearbox and 2K. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is official.
You're understandably excited, as was I and the rest of the community, as Borderlands 3 was a bit of a disappointment, and this game was based off a DLC that everyone had already loved from Borderlands 2. Not to mention, the game had magic, customizable characters, and most importantly, was all fantasy-based, meaning the developers could in theory put anything they wanted into the game so long as it fit the medieval setting. Hype was through the roof as fans left comments like, "This is actually incredible." After the first trailer, I was kinda underwhelmed, but after seeing this, I literally can't wait for this game. Another said, "One good thing about this game, since it's a fantasy, anything goes. They can make any BS and it would fit in here." Ironically, this next commenter seemingly knew the future, with them saying, 1. I love Tiny Tina. 2. D&D good. 3. I love Borderlands 2 and the D&D-like DLC. 4. Love the use of Baby Metal's Gimme Chocolate. Hell, it fits Tiny Tina. Therefore, it's a must-buy. I swear, it better be good, or pop goes the bandit. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was initially thought about in the early 2010s, according to Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford, a man who I just released a video on about a week ago, which you should check out after this. But in terms of a development window for the game, we don't have much to go off of. It's safe to assume that the game had a minimum of 2 years in development. With Wonderlands releasing in 2022, this would mean that Wonderlands was developed during one of the rockiest times to make a game, the COVID-19 pandemic.
I ain't seasoned these bitches. Oh, no.
Meaning some of, if not all of the game, could have been made from home and could start to explain some of the massive missteps later into the game's lifecycle. Around this time, Epic Games was getting launch exclusivity for multiple games to help build up their Epic Games Launcher, a platform that was competing with Steam. Most people hated the Epic Games Launcher as it offered less than a fraction of the features that Steam offered, so people avoided the storefront by any means necessary. We saw this firsthand when it was revealed that Borderlands 3 would be exclusive to the Epic Games Launcher for the first 6 months, and the community really pushed back on that. Fast forward to the Wonderlands reveal, and they never learned, or they just didn't care, as Wonderlands was announced to be an Epic Games exclusive. But this time, it was just 3 months instead of Borderlands 3's 6. This still angered the fanbase and made players avoid the game altogether. This, in my opinion, was the first of many major missteps during Wonderlands, as it showed that Gearbox cared more about money than accessibility for their players.
We are already at a record low player base. Don't you think we need to start implementing changes that are in the better interest for our players rather than the better interests of our company and money? No, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
In my eyes, taking the Epic Games deal was a net negative in the long term, as if they released Wonderlands on all platforms day one, Gearbox could have made the same amount if not more money due to having no controversy, and Steam users being able to play day one, which in turn would make pre-orders and first week sales much higher. So, when the game finally released, it actually wasn't that bad. The environments looked amazing, the gameplay was great, and the story was much better than Borderlands 3's, at least in my opinion. Along with all of these improvements came changes we've never seen in the franchise, like dual classing, a feature that lets you mix and match classes to make some pretty cool builds. Or what about world scaling, a feature that makes the world level with you as you play and get stronger. We've seen this feature in older Borderlands games, but only in True Vault Hunter mode or higher. Not to mention, we had actual raid bosses at launch, 4 to be exact. Barkenstein, Bunny Dog, and Gloopathoth, with the 4th, the Maker, being a secret unlock after beating the previous 3. All of these changes to the game made it feel fun and refreshing to play, but The good kinda stops there, as yet again, Gearbox had failed to add dedicated loot drops, something that today is so integral to the Borderlands series and player enjoyment. Wonderlands also had 40 levels total and lacked any sort of New Game Plus like True Vault Hunter mode. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, you finish the game and are then greeted with the Chaos Chambers. Which, to my knowledge, is the only true piece of endgame content that Wonderlands has to offer. The Chaos Chambers are randomly generated levels that progressively get harder and offer more loot with each run. Once you finish a run, you can spend currency that you've collected throughout that run on loot bunnies. While the Chaos Chambers aren't the worst endgame system we've ever seen, the way that they were handled throughout the game's lifecycle would show that Gearbox, at least at the time, were not even close to being in touch with the community's feedback. At launch, the game had 20 levels that players could take on, but they were too grindy and repetitive, especially for being the only real piece of endgame. So, the community did what they always do and took to YouTube, Twitter, and Reddit to voice their suggestions on making the chambers more enjoyable to run through. And Gearbox listened to none of it, as the devs eventually increased the max chaos level to 100, meaning a player had to get through the same repetitive content 100 unique times to reach max chaos level.
Nah, that ain't it, y'all.
By this point, most of the community was already gone due to the post-launch support being an absolute dumpster fire. This section is the one that hurts the most to speak on, as I and many others seen the potential of Wonderlands post-launch, and were beyond excited for what was to come. Maybe we'd see a Witcher-style DLC, or an Atlantis-themed DLC, or maybe even a Lord of the Rings-esque DLC. But to everyone's dismay, none of that would happen. When Wonderlands was announced, it was said to have 4 post-launch content drops, which would be paywalled by a season pass. This is pretty typical for the Borderlands franchise. The season pass costed $30 US, so players expected something along the lines of what we got in the past Borderlands games. And rightfully so, as looking into the past games, almost all the DLCs were worth their cost. So players generally had nothing to be worried about, or so they thought. With the release of the first DLC, or PLC, as the devs called it, players couldn't help but take notice at how short and uninspired the content really was. It felt as if they tried to recreate the Headhunter packs from Borderlands 2, which are $3 a piece, and sell it as DLC in Wonderlands, priced at $10, which is just insane and shows exactly where Gearbox went off the rails. As the rest of the PLCs released, they were all about the same as the first, with the final one introducing a new class, finally changing it up a bit. Overall, players hated the PLCs and voiced their frustrations on the matter, with some saying, and I quote, "As somebody who pre-ordered the game including DLC, I feel like Gearbox have stolen money from me." And another saying, "The first DLC of the rather expensive season pass I bought is just a dungeon." Cool. And finally, this person says what I think most of us felt like at the time. This whole season pass should have just been one of the DLCs. The Headhunter packs from BL2 had more content than a single one of these PLCs for a fraction of the cost. This season pass is a joke, and it has me extremely worried for the future of Borderlands and Wonderlands. After it was all said and done, Gearbox never went back to right any wrongs and swept it under the rug as if nothing happened. Then, news hit that a sequel that had been in development for Wonderlands was cancelled, which worried even more fans of Gearbox, as if this was correct, then it showed how bad the game performed overall, and just how quickly they could shelve a title that players were looking forward to. But was the game being cancelled even true? You see, after the layoffs at Lost Boys Interactive, it was said that Wonderlands 2 was all but confirmed to be cancelled, but recently, an anonymous 2K employee said the opposite. So, what are we meant to believe? Well, here's how I see it. On one hand, the layoffs took place during the Embracer Group's restructuring, which doesn't paint a pretty picture, as the game has most likely been put on the back burner until things settled down, or, in worst case scenario, was being developed during an incredibly rocky time within their studio. And on the other hand, the 2K employee could have given out false information. Whether they did this on purpose or not, we really don't know, but that's currently all we have to go off of in terms of a sequel. So while I think that a Wonderlands sequel would be absolutely amazing, I'm incredibly skeptical that the game will ever be released, and if it is to see a full launch, if it'll even be good. Now that we've seen how Gearbox have misled and mishandled Wonderlands, I can only hope that they've learned from their mistakes moving forward, as if they haven't, then Borderlands 4 will be doomed from the start. Only time will tell, but if the past is anything to go off of, then the DLC season in Borderlands 4 will make or break the game. And with rumors that the upcoming Mercenary DLC is just a reskin of a certain area that already exists in the game, it isn't looking good. With all that being said, that was How to Kill a Game Wonderlands Edition. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, as it helps me out a ton, and consider subscribing, as I'd love to have you around. But I'm gonna go back to being radio silent. I love y'all, have a good day, see you in the next one, bye.